Set. Set. Come on in. Come on in. Take your front seats. You're all looking pretty. There's a lot of room up front. Let me know when you're ready, and we will begin the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. If you can hear me, come on in. Come on in, folks. Come on in. I'm early today. Come on in, folks. I'm early today. Doesn't mean you'd be late. What is it, the expectation setting that I'm gonna be late? The time is 8 o'clock. Good morning, says Mr. Tiwari. Good morning, Mr. Tiwari. How are you doing? Good morning, Nishant, says Mr. Ashutosh Bhandikar. Good morning. You're late today. You all are late today. I'm early. I came right on time, 8 o'clock today. For a change. And nobody was here. Oh man. But I am to blame, of course. I'm always late by 5 minutes. So the expectation setting is 8:05, which is fair. If you can hear me, should we begin? Should we start the show that we deserve? The show that makes everything right? The perfect start to the beginning. The beautiful friendship that develops. Yes, Mr. says, yes, says Mr. Bhandikar. So we begin. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. Before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition? You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip? We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Healing. Let's do it again. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. A lot of things going on. RBI has kept the rates unchanged, as we said was going to happen, as everybody said was going to happen. So we were not really very insightful here. Everybody knew that RBI was not going to change the rates now, because a lot of the earlier rate cuts are yet to translate into action. And you know, when you change the rates, the bond markets gets in a fix, right? So you change the rates, see what happens, and then slowly and steadily watch it get absorbed. And after it gets absorbed, you know, you think about further rate cuts. What happens with rate cuts is that capital becomes a bit cheaper. When capital becomes a bit cheaper, more people take loans, right? Because interest rates go down, more people take loans. When more people take loans, more people get jobs, because people take loans to buy things or to start businesses, right? So more people get jobs. When more people get jobs, economic activity bustles and it goes up. Now the problem which happens is that when you lower the interest rate, capital becomes easily available, right? When capital becomes too easily available, inflation rises. And you don't want the inflation to rise, because with the price rise, with inflation rising, currency becomes worthless, right? People's cash amounts basically become worthless. Now, you don't want that. You don't want things to go expensive, so that people can't buy anything. So the balance between inflation and balance between growth is what the rate cut is supposed to do. Now inflation is pretty much in control right now, right? And growth is also pretty high. So what happens is, if inflation is too low, let's say 4% is the target of inflation right now, it's forecasted as 2.6%, right? If inflation goes way low, then you can lower the interest rates, further growth, right? You can improve the growth by bringing the inflation a little up. So when you lower the rates, the inflation would go little up. When the inflation goes little up, growth keeps on, so that you're happy. But that is not necessary right now, because the country is already growing. There's a lot of stuff happening, right? GST cuts, personal tax rationalization, and now there's today something new, that the government has increased the dearness allowances for its government employees, right? Earlier, the cost of these things were 55% of the total salaries. Now it's gonna be 58%. It's gonna cost 10,000 crore rupees for the government, but people will have even more money in their pockets to spend on the festive season. So inflation is in control. Growth is looking at raises the growth target to FY26 to 6.8%. So the country will grow at 6.8% according to the RBI governor, right? And the rates have been unchanged. Rates have been unchanged. That means it's gonna be good for the market right now. It's gonna be stable for the market. When rates change, in let's say when rates come down, markets are supposed to rise. But if there's a problem in the bond market, markets get a bit confused. They get a lot of flux. So right now it's gonna be stable. It's gonna be nice for the markets, which is exactly why markets rose yesterday, right? So that's what's happening. Some data points if you're interested. Uh, Inflation projection has been lowered from 3.1 to 2.6% for FY26. The growth has been up. The projection has been revised upwards from 6.5 to 6.8. Right? We will make all efforts to ensure whatever are the headwinds, they can be countered. So that's that. Some more data points. Sensex surged 716 points, and you know the 10-year yield gilt yield eased 6 basis points to 6.52. So bond yields eased a little. So that's exactly what was supposed to happen as this play was gonna get up. Now they've not just made the interest rates unchanged, the RBI. They've also done something which we discussed yesterday. So do you remember what we discussed yesterday? For banks, we talked about something called forms of business. You remember that? You remember talking about forms of business where Axis Bank's NBFC was trying to sell 20% stake to cash in, but the investors were asking about the forms of business regulatory overhang, because RBI earlier had a rule where it said that competing products cannot be sold by NBFCs and banks and their different arms cannot be selling competing products, because that's going to lead to conflict of interest, and that's going to lead to some sort of mis-selling maybe. RBI didn't allow it earlier, and it said that we're going to come out with that circular forms of business. When it has come out with that circular, and it has allowed banks to actually have their NBFC selling different deals originated from other people, which might or might not be sold by banks themselves. So with that out of the way, Axis will be free to raise money. It'll be able to sell 20% stake, whatever it was trying to sell, to raise money, because forms of business has also been clarified. Now, forms of business has been clarified. The interest rates have been unchanged. The growth projection has been upward revised. The inflation has been lowered, the target, the projection of it. Then there's also a rule on IPO financing. So IPO financing norm has been raised from 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs, right? And loans against shares have been raised to 1 crore. This is to spur investments in equities by Indians people. They said, now people said, now, sir, you really raised the bar, didn't you? Right? You really raised it a lot. So they said the last time this deal was set at 10 lakhs, it was 1998. So, it's gonna be, it's time. So if you look at time or count inflation, we've not really increased the limits by a lot. So raised cap for IPO financing 25 lakh from 10 lakh, right? It's gonna help the retail participation in the primary markets. Not that IPO markets needed any help, they were already so green and so high, but they've anyway done this. Loans have been, uh, loans against shares basically have been raised. Moving on, 10,000 crore limit on loans for companies has been scrapped, and yeah, that's quite a lot of things that RBI has come out with. This is very, very good news for MSMEs, for risks, for basically banks' flexibility, for banks to expand, to raise capital, and so on and so forth, for demerging of it, right? No curbs. So it's amazing what RBI has done. For I can't find any fault as far as uh, you know this particular move is considered. It's just a string of good news. It's almost too good to be true right now. Right? Banking stocks have gained. The Dalal Street decline has been reversed. VIX has fallen for 7%. VIX is volatility index 7%. Right? Traders have cut the bearish bets. Now, if you remember, we talked about how banking sector. Now, we've been talking about this for over 100 days now. We said exactly the same, right? We said banking 100 days ago is going to have two bad quarters, right? Two bad quarters, and then things are going to start getting better from the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter onwards it's going to be green, right? But it's going to be difficult for banks because of the net interest margin issues and a lot of you know so all of that is taking shape. We were very ahead of the curve, and it's always nice to be ahead of the curve, don't you think? Right? And because why could we do that? Because we are seeing history as a process. We are seeing the second order effects of things. Just yesterday we discussed the forms of business clause, right? And why Axis Bank deal was stuck by people. And right today we read that RBI has come out with a circular saying that there are no curbs, you can go ahead. So if you read it in context, right, you understand how things develop. If you read it out of the blue as a story, as a singular story, you might not be able to understand what it's trying to solve, right? And we've been able to see what it's trying to solve. So now what we don't understand is, why is the RBI raising cap for IPO financing? Right? We understand loans for to individuals against shares, right? Why would you give loans to people against shares? Because equity participation is rising amongst people, right? And people have a lot of equities, and you can securitize those equities, right? And if you can give loans against those shares, that becomes another way of giving secured loans, right? Which are good, right? Gold loan is rising, personal loan, whatever loans you're getting, if you can use your shares as a tool or as a security or as a collateral against loans, it's a good thing. Now we understand that, but why did the RBI raise the IPO financing limit, right? Just because it wasn't raised since 1998, is that a good enough reason? Maybe it is, but that's how you got to look at things in order to actually understand where the thing is gonna go tomorrow, right? So some questions we always ask ourselves. Uh, so right now it's becoming clearer and clearer that indeed the government show of cutting GST has worked. Can you guess why? September GST mop-up defies odds, up more than 9%. So GST has been up despite the steep rationalization, right? India collected 1.8 lakh crores as goods and services tax, up 9.1 year on year. Official data showed. This is despite 8 days of September beginning to have that kind of an impact. Now, uh, a lot of people will say that it was just 8 days and people hadn't really begun shopping. So let's see if India is being able to collect uh, the same amount of GST, right, despite such rationalization after September. And that's obviously not going to happen, right? Because even though expenditures are going to rise, people are going to buy things because it's being cut to this level. GST will obviously not grow as, like, in a way like before, right? Because 12% to 5%, in many cases zero, right? So this is but it leads to an activity, or it leads to an insight that actually it worked, right? GST could rise despite having been cut. That means it made sense for the government to actually give money in the hands of the people. Mr. Kumar says, good to be back for the live show. I missed all the episodes last week. Welcome back, Mr. Kumar. How are you doing? How are you doing? So nice to see you again. So nice to see you again. I hope your Garba went well. Ah, nice. So yeah, that's what's happening, right? Festivals to amplify consumption. Now, what did I tell you about the car industry play, right? It was somewhat unclear whether GST has worked for the car industry. It has. It has. So if you look at numbers of Maruti and if you look at numbers of Tata, they're really firing all cylinders. They're saying, I come to the numbers. First of all, Tata has sped past Hyundai and Mahindra, second spot in the personal passenger vehicle space. Number one is Maruti. Number two is Tata. Number three is Mahindra and Mahindra. Number four is Hyundai, or something of that sort, right? Now, if you look at these numbers, Maruti in September 25 has scored 1,22,000 and some passenger vehicle registrations. That's Maruti in September 1,22,000. Tata has sold 40,000 and some. Mahindra has sold 37,000 and some, and Hyundai has fallen to 35,000 and some. Now Maruti says that we have over 1.5 lakh vehicles which are yet to which are waiting to get cleared. So Maruti is really firing on all cylinders, and the numbers are extraordinary. So they're saying that this is the best month in a decade, the best Navratra in a decade. Now that clears it, right? That basically allays all fears, because a lot of good Navratras have happened in this country, right? Speaking of 2015 to 2025, if it's the best of all years, because after COVID the people had a lot of buying flux, right? A lot of pent up spending power. So if it's beaten that by a very big margin, it means it's sorted. Some numbers if you're interested. uh, okay, so yeah, I've already shared the numbers. Car dispatches increased 6%. Car sales have estimated to grown 5 to 6% in September from a year ago after 4 months of decline, with automakers stepping up dispatches to meet higher demand post GST 2.0 rollout. So this is pretty solid stuff, and this is just September. And people are saying that we have so much of bulk that we couldn't really service all the deliveries. As always, what happens with deferred expenditure, right? When it comes to front loading or when it comes to deferred expense, it always is a problem logistically, and that's exactly why it's happening. So people are saying that this October is going to be crazy. All right, moving on. Manufacturing growth has slowed to 57.7% in September. PMI is of 57.7%. We know how to read PMI, right? You remember how to read PMI? PMI above 50 means there's the capacity is expanding, and PMI below 50 means that the capacity is contracting. So earlier it had reached like 62, 61 something. It's come down to 57.7 in manufacturing in September. So it's a leading indicator that once this thing, the festive rush subsides, there's gonna be a dip as far as sales is considered. So you know now because manufacturing growth, right? This particular PMI month on month reading, it's not a very important reading per se, but it's a leading indicator of what happens in the future. Let's say 2 months, 3 months down the line, because factory orders, if factory is expanding, right? There's gonna be some time when it makes stuff, sometime when the wholesaler or the intermediary orders stuff, sometime when the intermediary leads to the retailer, sometimes sometime for the retailer to actually sell the product. So if this is expanding, you're going to see some action here 2 months later. If this is contracting, you're going to see some action in a downward direction 2 months, 3 months later. So that's one way of reading this particular situation. We've already talked about this a lot. Maybe not in this way, but yeah. So I hope that was interesting. Billion dollar play, IHC to take over driver's seat in Samman Capital. Samman Capital is formerly IHFL, I guess, right? Yeah. India Bulls Housing Finance Limited. So they're taking it over. UAE's biggest company, $280 billion play. They're getting very, very activated in India. Abu Dhabi headquartered IHC is backed by Sheikh Tanon bin Zayed Al Nahyan, right? And one of the most powerful financiers of the world. It's going to launch an open offer to acquire additional 26%. So, Samman Capital, market cap of 14,000 crores, assets under management 62,000 crores. So, that's that, right? A lot of India has been warming up to UAE. You know why? You know why India has been warming up to UAE? Do you remember that Mr. Piyush Goyal's project for development? Which country was India looking at developing housing of? We've discussed this. It's very important. It could be a $500 billion project. India was talking about the opportunity of actually uh, building it there, right? And then India went to UAE because India said that it was looking forward to financing of that particular project from UAE. So, which country was that who wanted to get their housing developed, or at least, according to Mr. Piyush Goyal, from India or Indian-based companies, or at least it was opening its that play to India? Do you remember that company, the country? We talked a lot about this. We talked a lot about this. You don't remember the $500 billion opportunity for Indian developers, for Indian industry, for the housing project? Australia, says Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar. Congratulations, Mr. Bhandekar. You remember. Now, these things are going to pan out sometime in the future. Now, the whole world will be surprised, right? But you won't be. That's very nice. Moving on. Hackers are vibing with AI. Cyber criminals are using plain language prompts on evil LLMs built for fraud, tricking them to sidestep safety curves to launch attacks. Well, that's not surprising at all. Moving on. Russian oil flows to private refiners. PSUs cut imports. PSUs have cut imports, right, because of sanctions and everything. Rosneft, Nayara, these people have been in trouble. They've been in perpetual trouble. They're not being able to, you know, move out. Even though Russia is the cornerstone of Indian oil imports, even now, its share has come down significantly, right? Russian crude now makes up for 1 in 5 barrels, right? Imported by state-run companies versus 2 in 3 by private refiners. So 2 in 3 by private refiners, 1 in 5 by public state-run companies. Oil PSUs need to diversify supply and so on. So we've talked about this. Nayara has not been able to get any oil from Iraq or Saudi Arabia or so on and so forth. It's just dependent on Russian supply. It's been setting up dark fleets to send its oil. It's a bit of a problem. I was thinking Nayara will be selling its oil to oil marketing companies of India itself, right? The refined product, IOCL, BPCL, which is gonna decrease the price of fuel in India. If that happens, it would have been crazy, but it hasn't happened yet. Or maybe something we are missing as far as that piece is considered. But could have been awesome, right? Don't you think? Hasn't happened yet. Cabinet, okay, it's 3% DA hike. Yeah, so the government has also raised the wheat's MSP, minimum support price, to 6.6% by 6.6%. It basically is also having an 11,000 crore scheme for cultivation of dal, lentils, right? You remember India was having some trouble as far as the dal supply is considered. We were importing dal and then because of those imports, the price of dal had crashed. Because of the price crashing of the dal imports, sorry, dal prices, farmers were in trouble, right? So then we placed duty on dal imports, right, and so on and so on. So because why did we have to go that way? Because there was some problem with the supplies in India itself. So now the government has come out with an 11,000 crore scheme to support that. Now if you have a historical context to things, yeah, you will be able to see where this story goes, right? You would have been able to predict that the government will step in for the dal play, right, if you knew what you knew, right? So that's why history becomes very important to help us predict. Moving on. Crimes by non-Indians jumped 21% in 2023. Bengal leads in crimes by foreign national, followed by Tripura. Now, why do you think Bengal is leading the crime rate by non-Indians? Can anybody guess why Bengal is leading the crime numbers when it comes to non-Indians? Well, it's obvious because there's most immigration happening to Bengal, right, from Bangladesh, and when that happens, crime rate rises, which should not be surprising to anybody. Moving on, Reliance to test waters with partners in Campa Sure rollout. In talks with dozen small players for bottling, tech, and branding tie-ups. Right, Reliance is trying hard as far as its Campa play is considered. Reliance Consumer is a 1 lakh crore company. It's demerging from Reliance Retail. We've talked about this. It's a part of Reliance Retail right now, but it's gonna demerge and then sometime it's gonna list, and it's a 1 lakh crore affair, right? And it's basically entering into the water, packaged water business, right? The Bisleri area. So that's what's happening across all businesses. We try to ensure that we keep pricing which is relevant for the consumer. For water, the approach is not just a tactical move to disturb the market, says the director of Reliance Products, right? Reliance consumers reported an 11,000 crore revenue, 11,500 crore revenue, and it has a serious retail network. So let's see what it does as far as the whole Bisleri play is considered, right? There's going to be a lot of price action. Reliance has done a lot of price action for the cold drink market as well. You know, I don't see any point of any of this, but it's not my monkey, not my gun. Moving on. Car forms out of throw as dispatches rise post tax cuts. So this was the number I was talking about, right? Some numbers that we about 3.75 lakhs to 3.8 lakhs vehicles were dispatched from factory to dealerships last month. That is an increase of 5-7%, right? Uh, yeah, there was this number. We are dispatching 10,000 vehicles every day, but there are constraints in logistics, which should get sorted by the second week of October, says Maruti. Maruti's retail sales went up 27.5% to 1,73,000 in September. There are tailwinds from tax cuts. This Navratri will be the best in the decade. So we've talked about this. Moving on. We've talked about the wheat MSP. We've talked about the Diwali dearness allowance for government employees. We've talked about factory activity lowering to 57.7. Right? A tracking of pledged $100 billion by EFTA. EFTA is a group of companies, Norway, Liechtenstein, then there's another Scandinavian country, I guess, yeah, Switzerland. So let me just find out the EFT companies. Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. So they've basically pledged $100 billion worth of investment, 50 billion plus 50. And the way they've made it contingent on is 9.5% nominal GDP growth for India. If India grows 9.5% nominal per year for the next 15 years, they'll keep the money rolling. And they're saying that we are very excited for this investment in the country, which is great. Swiss chocolates and watches get cheaper, right, because of the EFTA thing. So they're talking about the FTA as well, the free trade agreement. Now, free trade agreement is happening, which has led to cheapening of Swiss watches and chocolates, right? Uh, Lowering the removing duties on products like Swiss watches and chocolates. I guess this is good news. Moving on. MOSPI, which is Ministry of Statistical Program Implementation, they've come out. They're working on a new taxonomy for knowledge products, and they say they're gonna find out their contribution in the national GDP. Right now, an obvious question to ask is what? Weren't you doing it already? Right? And if you weren't doing it already, how is GDP number accurate? Well, that's always a very very good question to ask. But these things are ever evolving, and as they are ever evolving, it makes sense to keep, because a lot of products are essentially new in the play, right? And as the economy develops, as innovation happens, it makes sense to actually keep on improving the scope of study, which is exactly what MOSPI is doing right now. So something good. FM bats for Finance Minister Madam Nirmala Sitharaman bats for wider NPS coverage, that is National Pension Scheme, focus on gig workers and women, calls for early financial literacy in schools and colleges. Well, we've been talking a lot about gig workers, the delivery boys, and so on and so forth, and how there's healthcare, there's pension, there's a lot of things that can happen for those guys, and a lot of it is already on the way, which is exactly what Madam Nirmala Sitharaman is batting for, right? Moving on. Um, Mr. Putin is meeting Mr. Modi in December 5th to 10th, I guess. It's going to be his first meeting ever since in India, ever since the war began between Russia and Ukraine. They're going to be talking about importing a lot of defense equipment, S-400s, S-500s, Sukhoi 57. Sukhoi 57 is a fifth generation plane. Sukhoi 30 MKI is a fourth generation plane, Russian plane, which has been brought to India, and MKI is the Indian modification to it. And Sukhoi 57 is going to come up with 70% tech transfer, right? So that's pretty good. Sukhoi 57 MKIS. Sukhoi 57 is a pretty good plane, and it's gonna help with the Indian falling fleet. You know why India is importing planes, right? Or there's a talk about India's importing of planes. You remember that? I hope there's no doubt about it. Yeah, we've talked about it enough, and I'm sure you all remember that. Not many people, mostly old viewers of Thinkers Frequency. But India's India's fleet of fighter aircrafts has basically fallen down by a lot, right? We are desperately short of fighter planes. India is basically at the fleet size it was when it was 1963. So we need a lot of squadrons, and that's why we are looking at importing a lot of planes, which is going to be one of the focus areas of Mr. Putin's and Mr. Modi's meeting. And then, of course, there's going to be agriculture. Now, why do you think agriculture is going to be a focus area? Do you remember why agriculture is going to be a focus area between India and Russian talks? Do you remember why? It's very important. We discussed it. It was something pretty interesting. If you remember, I'll give you a second. Take a moment and think about it. No, nobody. It's basically China. China had essentially blocked its fertilizer supplies to the country, and India was in big trouble because if the fertilizer, now after PM Modi's talk with President Xi, that particular bit was taken back. But if that thing was continued for a while longer, right, this Rabi season would have been screwed, right? The planting of it and a lot of it. So that would have been a bit of a problem. But when China's uh, fertilizer supplies got blocked. India was running helter skelter. One of the places India was going to was Russia. The other place was Morocco. Then there was Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. So India is going to be talking to Russia for fertilizer as well. All's not well. Nayara. Nayara's crude import shrink, exports dip 60%. We've talked a lot about Nayara, the Rosneft and Reliance collaboration. TCS has dragged SpiceJet to court over unpaid tech bills of 2.3 crores. So in India, in India, it's a habit for Indian companies to not pay the vendors, right? Apparently, even companies like TCS struggle with this. Now they had served 2019 to 2013, 23. So there was a pending bill of 2.3 crores, right? Now Spice just didn't pay. So that's what they're saying, that they just refuse to pay. So what happens when the client stops paying, right? Firstly, you ask politely. You call. The client says, "Oh, I'm gonna clear it. I'm gonna clear it. I'm gonna clear it." So you just keep calling. After a few months, you become a little angry. When months pass, you start sending a legal notice. Uh, then you call again. Then you send a legal notice again. When almost a year has passed, you send a court notice, right? The summon. When the summon goes, it becomes a legal matter. And TCS has actually done that for a 2.3 crore payment. 2.3 crore. SpiceJet versus TCS. I mean, the lawyers who are going to be appearing for this, they're going to be like expensive lawyers, man. At least 5 lakh rupee per hearing kind of lawyers. And they're going to be at least 5 hearings for this. And they're asking for 2.3 crores plus interest, right? They provided services, and SpiceJet just didn't pay. As always, as Indian companies always do. Moving on. Made in India message. Zoho's Aratai logs 100x increase in user traffic. They've written an article on how this is not enough. The country will have to. Mr. Abhinav Gupta says, Abhinav Mittal decides. Sir, your name says Gupta, but you say Abhinav Mittal. Abhinav Mittal, great presentation and love the guitars. Well, thank you. There are more, which are out of the view. But anyway, so we were talking. They're saying that it's not going to be enough for RTI to get this initial traffic bump, because that is easy. What's difficult is to sustain. I had written a very viral article on it recently, on how I had quoted my mentors, one of my mentors who was the CTO at Hike when it had 100 million plus users. They didn't quote me, the Economic Times guys. So sad. I wish they quoted me. They've quoted Sajit Pai, Mr. Sajit Pai, who's the founder of early stage venture capital firm 341. He says network effects are very important. I had written a very, very big article, and which went viral as well. Didn't get quoted, sad, but it's okay. UPI transaction volumes have dipped, value rises marginally in September. So volumes have dipped, values have risen marginally. Why do you think volumes have dipped? Hint, it has something to do with a ban. Can you guess why UPI volumes have been hit? Anybody? It has something to do with a ban. What was that ban? We've talked about it. We've written articles about it. Very, very viral articles. Right? Betting. Mr. Tiwari, you're right. Real money betting is off, due to which UPI transaction volumes have dipped. Right? Total value of transactions rose marginally to 24.9 lakh from 24.8 lakhs, right? Earlier it was 20.01 billion, and now it's 19.63 billion. Real money game betting apps banning is going to have far reaching consequences for the Indian economy, as we had discussed. and this is one of them. So payment gateways are a bit sad, right? Because uh, they're not very happy because they earned a lot of money through these uh, apps, right? But it's not gonna happen anytime soon. However, big purchases are still happening, so that's good. Uh, Ticket size of RMG used to be small. The segment accounted for a large share of overall volume. That's why volume. That's why the impact of gaming has significant is significant. Uh, uh, yeah, I'm just thinking of a few numbers. Yeah, that's cool. So FASTag and everything is okay. Apps have come down, which was surprising. Which was not surprising, at least for us. We saw this coming. This is great. That particular money, the 1 lakh crore money. What happens is, all that money also was concentrated in the festive season. So festive seasons is when the money went into betting apps. Now that money won't be able to go to the betting apps. That means you're going to see an even better surge as far as the festive season was considered. So the festive season shine was taken away by the betting apps. Not anymore. At least mainstream version of it, which is great. Hyperpure is to expand customer base beyond restaurants and hotels. So Hyperpure is the B2B arm of Zomato, Eternal. It supplies grocery and stuff to restaurants, right? Now it's gonna move to street vendors and home bakers and so on and so forth. Its revenue rose 80% or something, right? Hyperpure braces for a revenue squeeze after it stopped supplying groceries to sellers on the group's quick commerce platform Blinkit, which contributed to more than 60% of its top line. So Blinkit has turned inventory led, right? So it's gonna own its inventory. Earlier, Blinkit used to get its inventory from Hyperpure. So Hyperpure's revenue is gonna come down. Hyperpure revenue grew 89% year on year and 25% quarter on quarter. Now degrowth is gonna happen, and you know, as an outcome of Blinkit's transaction, we'll also see shrinkage in Hyperpure's non-restaurant business, as most of this B2B were sellers on our quick commerce platform. So that's that. Hyperpure's revenue was uh, 2,200 crores for the April to June quarter, 89% jump year on year. So Hyperpure's revenue is gonna suffer because Blinkit has turned into an inventory led platform. Why did Blinkit turn into an inventory led platform? Because it offers more control, and it offers better uh, unit economics. Even though the cost of capital rises a bit, the cost uh, the initial cost, let's say, rises a bit, but the turnaround times and everything becomes easier to manage. That's going to hurt Hyperpure a bit, but it was just basically an in transaction, so that doesn't matter, right? Blinkit is going to benefit, Hyperpure is not. At the end of the day, Zomato or Eternal is going to benefit, so that's okay. Swiggy was also trying to do the inventory led switch, but Swiggy is majorly owned by foreign investors, so it's not going to be able to do that. The regulation says that you have to be a domestically owned company, majorly, in order to be an inventory led marketplace, right? Inventory led online seller. So that's going on. Moving on. EVs on the rise. We've talked about this, right? By the way, in Q2 as well, Ather has inched ahead of Ola. So it was not just in the last quarter, Ather had become equal to Ola, right? Now it has actually moved ahead. Ather has sold more bikes than Ola. Ola's share is down, and exactly as we predicted. So not gonna harp on it again, but yeah, since we were talking about EVs, right? Moving on. Festivals to amplify consumption. We've talked about this enough. We've talked about RBI's reforms, let's say. Lenders get green light to finance corporate acquisition. India Inc. can live the M&A dream. Banks can lend more against shares, REITs, in which ceiling on loans against listed debt scrapped, right? Ceiling on loans against listed debt has been scrapped. This was important. Principle based rules planned for financing. We've talked about this. I'm just hoping I'm not missing out on anything. Yeah, I'm not. Uh huh, uh huh. Rupee based cross border transactions. So, the RBI is trying to internationalize rupee. We've talked about this enough. The country wants to have rupee internationalized, rupee to get used, right? So what India is trying to do, or RBI is trying to do, is setting up fronts in cross-border transactions, and setting up fronts in cross-border transactions with favorable countries. Let's say Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, other trading partners, right? So the problem is that India, right now, the exchange rate hasn't been set. So I'll just read out the details for you, right? Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, its major trading partners. Uh, Reserve also established, the RBI will also establish a reference rate between rupee and other currencies, starting with Indonesian rupiah, UAE's dirham, right? So uh, Governor Sanjay Malhotra sir proposed to permit authorized dealer banks to lend in IR to NRIs, non-residents from Bhutan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka for cross-border trade transactions, right? And another proposed measure is to permit wider use of special rupee Vostro account (SRVA) Vostro account uh, to balances. One second. Yeah, balances by making them eligible for investment in corporate bonds and commercial papers. Now, why is RBI trying to do this? Can you guess why RBI is trying to internationalize rupee by this? Because rupee is falling against the dollar, and rupee is one of the weak currencies against the dollar. And rupee's fall has been attributed in some way as something conscious, because a fallen rupee gives the country some sort of competitiveness against in export markets. When your currency is devalued, your exports become cheaper. When your exports become cheaper, you are able to sell more because they are more competitive, right? The other countries can't compete. How do you think China has essentially won the export market? It kept devaluing yuan, right? And just kept devaluing its currency to an extent where everybody became non-competitive. So rupee has been fallen. But to arrest this slide, what RBI is trying to do is internationalize rupee. And currently, most countries quote rates using the US dollar as an intermediary. Okay, while trade financing is also done largely in US dollars. These proposed steps would allow Indian banks to give loan to INR to importers, exporters in nearby countries, thereby directly dealing in rupee. Okay, now this is very important, directly dealing in rupee. The reference rate hasn't been set right now, so that's been. However, the process of benchmarking the currency pair needs to be worked out, as there's no active INR dirham or INR rupiah market with enough transactions to naturally discover a reliable exchange rate. There is no natural exchange rate that can be discovered because there's no flow of money, right, happening. There's no. So you've got to set a reference rate, right? We are actively looking at a couple of currencies, Indonesian and dirham, and some more which are gradually take up. We'll have to see how to set the benchmark because there are not many active transactions to begin with. So that's what's happening. An effort to internationalize rupee. I wish them all the luck in the world, right? If Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, uh, all these countries, these friendly nations, dirham, let's go to Thailand, right? Indonesian rupiah, and so on and so forth. If rupee becomes, uh, you know, instead of using dollar as an intermediary, rupee and these currencies trade happen directly, it's going to benefit rupee a lot, and it's going to hurt the dollar. If it's going to hurt the dollar, America will come back to bite India. But India is probably, uh, it could be a leverage move against America, right? Anyway, moving on. Overseas borrowing may soon get easier and cheaper for Indian companies. Uh, Central bank working on new rules, draft framework to be issued softly. This is RBI monetary policy, one of the thing. Relax rules on external commercial borrowing, making it easier. They are basically making it easier. Last year, Indian companies borrowed 61 billion through ECB's external commercial borrowings, right? Was an increase of 26%. Under the new framework, borrowing limits could be raised. Indian companies can raise up to 750 million a year. Startups are allowed 3 million. This would be raised. So this is one of the moves that we are doing. RBI is on fire today. A lot of action. Currently, the minimum average maturity for ECBs is 3 years, which will be relaxed. Also, borrowing costs could change. At present, it's capped at 250 BPS, 6 months LIBOR. It's gonna get better. So that's good. That's pretty awesome. Moving on. Banks get more time to start expected credit loss provisioning. So there's something called credit loss provisioning. Right now, it's basically how it's done right now. It's that you see the provisions, the losses happening right in the current year, and then you mark them. Now they're gonna basically make them do a 2-year forecast of the expected credit loss. That's a new way of marking provisions. It's gonna strengthen the banking system. It's also gonna provide a pretty solid view on the banking strength over a period of 2 years, let's say. Central banks ask lenders to prepare for transition from April 2027, glide path until March 23. So it'll replace incurred loss provisioning. Incurred loss means the loss which has already been incurred, keeping existing asset classifications, improve credit risk management, of course. Yeah, so that's cool. Applies to scheduled commercial banks, excluding small financing banks. Small financing banks are obviously not going to get this regulatory overhang. Moving on. A lot of action. The US has entered again in a shutdown. The government shutdown has begun. The government shutdown has begun. You know what the government shutdown is? There's a lot of chatter. Not a lot of people know how US government works and how this US shutdown happens. So I'll explain. What happens is that India has a Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and then there's Vidhan Sabha, right? The state assembly, I guess. That's what's Vidhan Sabha, right? So Lok Sabha is MPs, Vidhan Sabha is MLAs, Rajya Sabha is the people appointed by the Vidhan Sabha majority, right? That's what's yeah. So that doesn't happen in US. US doesn't happen the state based thing and the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. US has a Senate and a House of Representatives. Senate is 2 senators per state, right? And then there are House of Representatives. They are varied, so they can be a lot. So House of Representatives have 2-year terms, right? And Senate has, I guess, 6-year terms. How long is the Senate term? Just one second. How long is the senator term? It's 6 years. 6-year Senate term, right? I was right. So what happens is, in order to pass a spending law or something of that sort, you need to have a super majority in Senate. Now, ideally, U.S. government shouldn't be in this shutdown because Senate and House both are Republican right now. So Republicans have a majority in Senate, and Republicans also have a majority in House of Representatives. However, when it comes to these things, you need a super majority, which is called a filibuster, right? You don't have that. So Republicans don't have a super majority in Senate. That's why the Democrats are being able to ask the government to not go ahead with the spending bill or something of that sort. So right now, the battle is whether they should be paying for healthcare of illegal immigrants, right? Democrats want it done. Republicans don't. That's the major bone of contention. Now, House of Representatives have 2-year terms and they change. So House of Representatives are a lot. So total Senate seats are 100, I guess. House of Representatives are 435 or something of that sort, right? Now there is no chief minister kind of a play as far as US is considered. So president has authority. So think of the senator as a statewide lawmaker, statewide MP, right? And the House of Representative as the representative, essentially uh, a member of the House as the district wise lawmaker. The executive is not that, right? So that's US politics in a nutshell. So that's what's happening. And now, because Republicans don't have a supermajority in the Senate, they're getting blocked, and the government is going to shut down. If the government shuts down, it's going to be US is going to be firing a lot of Fed employees, which the government doesn't want, right? I mean, Democrats don't want. So there, it's going to be a kind of a stalemate. Eventually, Republicans are going to triumph because they have all the chips. If the shutdown happens, they're going to be furloughing a lot of people, but then eventually going to fire a lot of people. And Democrats don't want these government people to get fired, right? Because these people are very pro Democrats. So if they get fired because of Democrats, it's going to be a bit of an embarrassment. So that's what's happening. 7,50,000 federal workers to be expected to be furloughed. Trump vows to do things that are irreversible bad. So Fed government firing and everything is happening. A lot of crazy stuff happening in US. It's not as crazy as it has been before, because the Republicans have a lot of hold right now, but still pretty crazy, right? G7 says it's time to step up pressure on Russian oil exports. G7 has been persuaded by Trump to take on Russia, and now they're moving forward. But a lot of things have been front loaded already. Russia is moving forward. It's attacking Kyiv a lot. Uh, Israel has apologized to Qatar for an accidental attack, right? Uh, and that's that. Eurozone inflation at 2.2%. EU to increase tariffs on steel imports. EU is also moving forward with the tariff play, right? And there's a deal which has been offered to Hamas, and it's over Hamas whether they'll take it. They say, we're not going to take this shit deal. We are thinking. But Trump has said, if you don't take this deal, then Israel is going to have a free hand. And the deal is that Hamas guys will have to surrender, and demilitarization of Hamas is going to happen, and so, I mean, Palestine is going to happen, and so on and so forth. It's a complicated affair. Let's see what happens. And with that, we come to the end of the 129th episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:05. We're gonna punch in anytime soon. It's Dashera today. Happy Dashera to all of you. May this festival bring a lot of good things, a lot of beautiful, beautiful good news to all of you. Uh, you know, it's also 2nd of October today, right? Which means it's the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. It's also the birthday of Lal Bahadur Shastri, right? Uh, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it is the date of birth of Lal Bahadur Shastri, sir, as well. Rest in peace. So, a lot of respect to them, to Lal Bahadur Shastri especially. And then, of course, everybody pays respect to Gandhi. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Uh, have a nice day. Bye bye. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. I must thank Mr. Tiwari and Mr. Bhandekar and Mr. Kumar, of course, and Mr. Abhinav Gupta, who has called himself Abhinav Mittal in the comments. So it's Gupta or Mittal, whatever it is. Thank you. I hope you had fun. I hope it added a lot of value to you. It definitely added a lot of value to me. See you. Bye.